You know that feeling when you're just looking for a clear path in life? Some kind of direction through all the noise. It's something we all feel, this search for a journey that actually leads somewhere meaningful. Well, today, we're going to explore one specific spiritual roadmap for that journey, and it's called the Covenant Path.
But let's be real, life isn't some smooth paved road, right? It can feel rocky, super uncertain, and just plain hard to navigate. So how in the world do we find our footing? How do we find that clear path forward when the way seems totally blocked? That's really the big question we're tackling here.
So the central idea we're going to unpack is this covenant path. And you can think of it like a journey, kind of like the one these pioneers were on. And just like any big trip, it's got signs. Signs to mark your progress and other signs to warn you about dangers. All of them designed to just keep you moving forward.
Now this is where it gets really interesting, because the signs fall into two main types. First, you have milestone signs. These are the big, life-changing commitments, the ordinances like baptism. Then you've got warning signs, which are the things you do every day, like prayer, that help you stay on course. Let's start with that very first milestone.
Every journey has to begin with a single step, right? So this first part is all about that, entering the gate. In this whole framework, baptism is that gate of entry. It's not just some ceremony, it's the first official covenant, a two-way promise with God. It's designed to consciously put you on this new path and give you access to divine help along the way. And calling it a gate is so important because it's all about choice. You don't just stumble onto the covenant path by accident, you actively choose to walk through that gate. The act of immersion itself is just packed with symbolism. It represents leaving an old life behind and being kind of reborn into a new one, full of new possibilities.
This whole idea isn't new at all. The practice goes way back to Christ's own baptism, around 27 AD. And for Latter-day Saints, the practice was formally brought back with what they believe was the restoration of priesthood authority on May 15, 1829, really re-establishing that original pattern.
Okay, so you're through the gate. Now what? How do you actually stay on the path? This is where those daily navigational tools come in, the warning signs that keep you on track.
And this is just a brilliant way to think about two of those tools. Prayer is like your compass. It's that constant communication that keeps you pointed toward God. And scripture study, that's your map, giving you daily direction and course corrections. They're called warning signs not because they're bad, but because ignoring them, well, that can be dangerous for your journey.
And you can see this throughout history, how crucial sacred texts have been for keeping a community's identity intact. From the Torah for ancient Israel in exile, to the New Testament for the early Christians, and for Latter-day Saints, the publication of the Book of Mormon in 1830.
All right, another one of these daily warning signs is tithing. It's really framed as an act of trust, of yielding your own will. It's a consistent choice that's meant to show you rely on God more than on worldly things. The whole point is to sanctify the traveler, helping them prioritize their commitment to this journey.
And this idea has some seriously deep roots. We're talking all the way back to Abraham around 1900 BC. In the early days of the Latter-day Saint movement, it was formally put into place in 1838 as a way to create some economic stability and, build up the community together.
So, where does the path lead from here? Well, beyond that entry gate and the daily signs, the journey includes some major milestones. These represent a much deeper level of commitment, and they provide what's described as spiritual power for the tough road ahead.
The temple endowment is a really key milestone here. It's an ordinance where people make higher covenants, promises related to things like obedience, sacrifice, and consecration. The whole purpose is to teach God's plan on a much deeper level and give people a bigger spiritual perspective and resilience for their journey.
And that phrase, power from on high, you'll hear that a lot. It's actually a direct reference to a promise in the New Testament. In this context, it means divine authority and spiritual ability, like getting more knowledge and strength, that's given to those who make and keep these temple covenants.
Now, the idea of a temple endowment isn't totally new. It has ancient parallels. You can see hints of it in ceremonies in the Tabernacle of Moses and later in Solomon's Temple. For the modern church, the first full endowments as they're known today were given in Nauvoo, Illinois, back in 1842.
Another huge milestone is missionary service. And what's so cool about this one is that it's all about looking outward. The journey suddenly shifts from being about your own personal progress to inviting other people to find the path. And in doing that, your own understanding and conviction just gets so much deeper.
Okay, the final milestone we'll look at is temple marriage, which is often called the crowning ordinance.
This is a covenant that's not just between two people and God. It's a promise that is believed to seal a family relationship forever, creating this divine partnership to walk the path together for eternity.
This doctrine was introduced back in 1843, and it had a massive impact on early Latter-day Saints society. I mean, it fundamentally shaped family structures and how communities were planned, especially when they settled in Utah after 1847. They built a whole society centered around this idea of eternal families.
So after all these gates and signs and milestones, what does it all really add up to? Well, the final big idea is that this is not a checklist you just complete. It's a lifelong journey of becoming who you're meant to be.
When you boil it all down, the path is defined by the signs we actually choose to follow. It's the combination of all of it, the big milestones and the small daily choices, that creates the journey. Every single sign, from baptism to temple marriage, from prayer to tithing, it all marks the way forward.
But here is the absolute crucial point. Following the signs does not mean the path is going to be easy. The signs don't just magically remove all the rocks or smooth out the rough spots. Their whole purpose is just to tell you where to step next so you can get through the challenges safely.
So in the end, this whole metaphor is a powerful call to stay focused and be intentional. The core idea is simple. By keeping your eyes on the signs, those key commitments and daily habits, you can successfully navigate the journey no matter how rocky it gets. Which kind of leaves us with one last question to think about. What signs are guiding your path?